Hey, what's up everybody? It's Documentaries back here again with another video, and today I'm going to be starting a bit of an interesting and different new series on the channel, which is going to be going through and documenting a couple of the guitars that I have and just kind of showing you guys what they're all about, what they sound like, fun stuff like that. It'll be a pretty interesting series. It'll be a little bit different. So if you guys do like some of this stuff, definitely make sure to drop comments down below. Let me know what you think, and also drop a like. Also, if you have any of these guitars of your own, definitely let me know what you think of them, because your opinion might be a little bit different than mine, so I always welcome that. But with that being said, we're getting into the first guitar of the series, which is going to be, of course, the 00DB Martin Jeff Tweedy signature guitar. I think that this is kind of an interesting guitar. It's got a lot of history, at least for me, and yeah, I think it's a pretty cool and unique guitar. Not many people have it. It's sort of a limited run. And yeah, so a little bit of backstory on it. This was originally announced and released in 2012. So this particular guitar I think I got in 2013. So it's at the making of this video, it's about 10 years old that I've had it. But the original guitar was released about 11 years ago. So it's definitely been around for a little while. It's a hand-built Martin made in Nazareth, Pennsylvania, which is conveniently right down the road from me pretty much. So definitely a pretty cool piece of history, piece of Martin history, and definitely something that I am really happy to own. If we look inside of the sound hole here at the middle, you can see that it has a little Jeff Tweedy label with Jeff Tweedy's signature. His signature owl graphic is in there. This particular model is number 729. I'm not entirely sure how many models were actually produced, but I do know that they were on sale until I think somewhere around 2018 to 2019. So it was a pretty long production run. However, I don't know how many of these actually were produced and how many are out there. But it is definitely something pretty interesting. Another thing that you may notice is that there is actually a signature of C.F. Martin IV in there. So Chris Martin is the CEO and owner of Martin Guitar, and he's actually somebody that I know personally. I got to know him a little bit through a meet and greet at Martin's factory where I got his signature on this guitar. And then a few years later, I actually attended and graduated from the college from which he received an honorary doctorate, which is, of course, Muhlenberg College. So definitely a pretty interesting and pretty cool thing, and definitely something that's unique. I don't know how many of these kinds of guitars are actually out there signed by both Jeff Tweedy and Chris Martin. But regardless, it's a pretty cool thing and definitely something that makes this particular example pretty special. But moving on into the woods that this guitar is constructed out of, it's made from Richlite on the fingerboard, which I know is a bit of a controversial material for some people. I know a lot of people really love ebony, and I am no exception. I absolutely love ebony, but Richlite is not really that bad. It doesn't have any negative tonal characteristics that I can discern. It sounds pretty good. It feels nice to play. It's very smooth. So I have no complaints there. This guitar is also a very unique one in Martin's lineup in that it is actually 100% mahogany. From front to back to sides, neck, headstock, everything is mahogany. It also has this faux tortoiseshell binding all around the front and the back, as well as the faux tortoiseshell pickguard. It has a Richlite bridge, your standard plastic black string pegs. It has, of course, a bone nut as well as a bone bridge. And it has these very beautiful open gear tuners back here, if you can see that. So it's definitely a pretty nice guitar. It's very vintage feeling. As far as the neck profile, I believe it's a soft V shape, so it is very comfortable. If you are familiar with the Eric Clapton signature Stratocaster, it feels very similar to that guitar. It is a little bit wide, of course, being an acoustic, but it's really comfortable to play. It's not too chunky, it's also not too thin. It's not like one of those wizard necks from the Ibanez series of guitars, but definitely something pretty nice. You'll also note that I have a fret wrap up here This is by Groove Gear. This is just to cut down on some of the string noise that happens back behind the nut and some of the overtones that you get there. Just cleans up the sound of it a little bit. So another couple of things to note, this is actually an entirely fully acoustic guitar. It does not have any electronics in it whatsoever. I know that Jeff Tweedy signature guitars can come with electronics if you special order them, but I didn't do that. I just got it as is, so it's just a pure acoustic. You can of course put in a piezo or something like that afterwards, but I just haven't done that. I don't really play it out enough to make it really worth my while to get electronics put in this. Plus, like I said, it just sounds great the way it is, so I don't really mind. So the last thing that I really wanted to touch on regarding the OODB is the finish. So this is something that I think a lot of people who are pretty new to guitar or who didn't grow up in like the 50s and 60s when everything was made with this type of finish might not fully appreciate. So this is a nitrocellulose finished guitar. What that means is that this whole body is covered in nitrocellulose lacquer, and it's of course a polished guitar. So what you need to be aware of is not to leave this on any type of stands that have petroleum products or anything like that in them, as they will eat away at the finish and it'll start to do this sort of thing where it puckers and it sort of melts. And the reason for that is because nitrocellulose lacquer is very soft. It doesn't actually ever fully cure and harden the way that the poly finishes from modern guitars would. It's also a lot more temperamental, so you need to very carefully select the products that you use to clean it. And you also should probably keep this away from any sunlight for prolonged periods of time. So generally speaking with this guitar, I don't ever leave it outside of its case. If I'm playing it, I clean it up using the Martin guitar polish for their particular instruments, a nice and soft microfiber cloth to get everything cleaned, to get all of the grease and everything else that may have accumulated off of this thing. And then I put it into its case and close it up until I'm ready to play with it again. The other thing that's really nice about keeping your guitar in your case, especially with an acoustic, is that these guys are pretty temperamental. Acoustics need to have very specific environmental controls in place. They don't like large fluctuations in temperature or humidity. So if you have it in your case, it's going to regulate that a lot better than if it's just out in the normal air, where sometimes you'll have the sun come out and then the temperatures heat up. Sun goes away, temperatures cool down, maybe your house has a humidifier or a dehumidifier, so your humidity is changing throughout the day. So like I said, I would highly recommend, with especially a guitar like this, to just keep it in its case every time that you're not going to be using it. I know it's a little bit frustrating to have to take your case out every time that you want to play, open it up, take the guitar out, all of that stuff, but it's a bit of a necessary thing as far as care for acoustics go. Another thing that I always do, although it's not necessarily something that you have to do, is when I'm finished with my guitar and I'm going to be storing it for, say, a month or more, I always like to detune my guitar a fair bit, just so that way there's still some tension on the neck, but it's not the full tension of your standard tunings. That will relieve some of the pressure and some of the strain that this guitar carries, and it's a thing that I do. I had read about it from some Martin technicians that recommend, when you're storing these guys, to detune them a little bit, just so that way you give a little bit of pressure relief. They can of course withstand the tension of the strings at full tuning, but I think generally it's always a little bit easier on the guitar if you detune it a little bit. And like I said, it's not going to hurt anything if you don't do it, but it's not going to hurt anything if you do. So it might help to prolong your guitar's life cycle. So what you're going to be hearing this through is my Sony ECM XM1 microphone. The last little bit that I wanted to get into for this was pricing. So this guitar back in 2012 started out at $3,300, and I got a little bit of a discount from Sweetwater. Shout out to Sweetwater. Absolutely love doing business with them, and their extremely extensive knowledge of guitars and setup that they do before they ship you anything. Absolutely can't recommend them enough. But with that being said, let's get straight into some tone demos here. So here's another thing that is really unique about this guitar too, is that it is, as the name would suggest, 00 dB. It is a deep body guitar, so it's a 00 size, which is a little bit small. It's sort of like a parlor size. It's not a full dreadnought. It's kind of in between like a smaller guitar and sort of a larger guitar. So it is a pretty nice size. It's fairly small, but with that deep body, it is able to output quite a good amount of volume, and it has a really large dynamic range in terms of the loudness that you can get out of it. You can make this thing very quiet, and you can also play and dig in a little bit harder, get it to really sing out. So it's got a lot of nice characteristics as far as the tone is concerned. But yeah, so let's just hear a little bit. So yeah, as you can hear there was a little bit of a combination of some picked guitar as well as hybrid picking, and of course finishing off with a little bit of fingerstyle. So definitely this guitar can do it all, from, like I said, anything picked, some of the harder type stuff, to some very mellow and nice chilled out picking, fingerstyle, all of that type of stuff. This guitar will do it, and it sounds absolutely fantastic. As far as getting these guitars these days, I think that they're kind of rare. You don't really see them too often anymore, but I found that that's sort of the case with a lot of guitars that I actually have in my collection, is that they used to be very prominent and prevalent on the secondhand and used market, but now things are a lot harder to come by. So if you guys do have the money and you have a chance to get one of these, I would highly recommend it. I think this is an absolutely fantastic acoustic guitar. Like I said, as long as you are not somebody who needs electronics, since most of these were sold without them, I think this is a fantastic guitar. But if you do need electronics, again, you can of course get that put in. I think Martin will do it for you if you give them a little bit of money and send the guitar out to them, or you can get a secondhand shop, or you could just do it yourself. But with that being said, this has been the Martin Jeff Tweedy signature guitar. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, definitely, again, make sure to drop a like, smash that subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. Do you have one of these? Have you looked into one of these? Do you have a Martin? Do you play Taylor? Definitely would love to know anything about you guys and have a little bit of a conversation, nerd out about some guitar gear. Always a fun time. And I will catch you guys in the next episode. Later.